Let's get to it. This video is from Toronto Sun. Liberal copycats using the conservative playbook to their advantage. Obviously, but I wonder how they're using it. We're obviously gonna see that, right? But you can't really use the same arguments as conservatives, since the liberals have been in power for almost 10 years, right? So pretty much they can't complain about what they did. But yeah, let's get to that.
In this election, the Liberals have been stealing an awful lot of their best policy ideas from the Conservatives.
Of course, they have to.
Conservatives say, we'll lower taxes on the middle class. The Liberals say, hey, we'll do that too.
Why didn't you do it
Conservatives say,
already?
we're going to axe the carbon tax. Hey, we'll beat you to that. We'll axe it right now, say the Liberals.
Didn't
We're
really
going to
do
build
that,
more
just
housing.
zeroed it.
We're going to make housing more affordable. Hey, we can do that too. We're going to have quicker approval of major projects, the Conservatives say. Hey, we can do that too, say the Liberals. We're going to improve national defense, the Conservatives promise. Hey, we can do that too, the Liberals say.
Yeah.
And we're going to build pipelines east and west, according to the Conservatives. Hey, we'll do that too, say the Liberals.
Wait, did they?
That's all well and
did
good.
they
Those are all
say
good
that
policies.
they will
I hope
do
the
it?
Liberals did adopt them, but I don't give them much chance of it actually happening if
No,
they
it's
get
not going to
reelected.
happen.
Take, for instance, the promise to move more Canadian oil to Quebec. Quebec uses about 350,000 barrels a day of oil.
Quebec.
It gets 70% of that from the United States. The other day in Victoria, now why he said this in Victoria and not in Montreal or Quebec City, I don't know, but the other day in Victoria, Mark Carney, the Liberal leader, said, that's wrong. We shouldn't be getting that much oil from the United States, especially not in this climate. Let's move in more oil from Alberta. Good idea. But there's already a lot more oil from Alberta going to Quebec than there used to be in the old days, because there was a pipeline that ran across Ontario where the direction got reversed. Instead of it bringing foreign oil through Ontario, it was taking Canadian oil to Quebec. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
But who did he appoint as his second in command? Who did he appoint as his Quebec lieutenant? Stephen Guilbeault, the old environment minister, who is the most...
How can you trust all of this when liberals were, like I mentioned, in power for 10 years now, almost 10 years, 3 terms, and they did not do it up until now? How can you trust them right in front of, right ahead of the elections? How can you trust all of these promises? Like, you had a chance to do all of this and you did not do that. And especially Mark Carney, like, obviously he mentioned multiple times that he's not going to repeal or reverse the Bill C-69, which prevents us from building more pipelines. But somehow, right now, he's all for the oil and moving more oil from Alberta to Quebec and all of that. If liberals even mentioned new pipelines, that's crazy. You know who that reminds me? It reminds me Kamala Harris, or Harris, whatever was her name. When originally she was against fracking, right? Then Donald Trump, big fan of fracking. Somehow this election in 2024, obviously, Kamala was all in for fracking. And guess what? Kamala Harris ran for Democrats, which is pretty much liberals, right? Same playbook. Like, they're just trying to copycat the conservatives, Republicans, whatever. Because, I guess it's much easier to have like a campaign based on the other political party that was in power for 10 years, because you see what needs to be changed. So that's probably why Republicans and conservatives had such a strong campaign. But yeah, from the point of the liberals, like, you're lying to our faces. You're still Liberal Party. You had a chance to do all of this. Like, right now you realize that the taxes are too high, that the people have a hard time to keep up with their bills. What about 3 years ago? You did not know it then? Well, you didn't care back then. So yeah, that's just one example. Like, they're lying through their teeth. And don't get me wrong, I know that it's all politics. So obviously conservatives, like, we have so many promises. I would love if they can fulfill all of them, but it's probably not going to happen. But the difference is that the liberals, they already were in power and they are in power. So how is it possible that right now they realize that they need to do something for Canadians? Right now, before election, how can you trust them? And one thing I don't agree with, axing the carbon tax, they didn't axe it. They just lower it to 0 for now, but the law or bill is still there. So it can change day to day to whatever they decide.
Anti-pipeline politician in the history of Canadian cabinet.
Anti-pipeline.
And Mark Carney then goes on to say, and we won't build a pipeline to Quebec unless Quebecers overwhelmingly agree. And Indigenous people too, and environmentalists. So what do you think the chances are? So he makes this great promise about building a pipeline to the east, bringing more oil from Alberta to Quebec. Great idea. And then he puts so many liberal caveats on it that you know it's never going to get built. Look at the carbon tax. He did reduce the consumer carbon tax to 0% rather than raising it again on April 1st. But he's also promised to bring in a carbon tax on corporations. Well, that's just going to get passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices.
Yeah.
So he isn't really getting rid of the carbon tax. He's just hiding it. He's putting it under the rug over here under corporations. There's going to be quicker approval of major energy projects.
Yes, why didn't that happen in the past 10 years?
Bill C-69.
Here we go,
the Impact
C-69.
Assessment Act. The thing that makes it so much harder to build a new pipeline in Canada that there will never be another one.
Not just pipelines.
The No More Pipelines Act for a reason. And Carney won't get rid of it. So what do you think the chances are that there are actually going to be these pipelines he's promised? Again and again and again, the Liberals steal these conservative ideas, but then they tack on liberal caveats that make it unlikely they will ever get done. Take a look, too, at the middle-class income tax cut that the Liberals have promised. They promised that in 2015. Trudeau ran in the 2015 election. One of his principal platforms was a middle-class tax cut. Remember, he's going to take more money from the rich and give it to the middle class. Just a little bit from the rich, give a lot to the middle class. The arithmetic.
I just looked at my pay stub today. And not my regular pay stub, but we signed a new collective agreement, so we got a bonus for that, right? And I'm like, yeah, okay, so maybe I'll pay just income tax, right? I was disgusted, but honestly, that's the first time I finally understood what's going on in Canada, how it's all split. Because back in Czech Republic, you have income tax, that's it. I think it used to be 21%, maybe now it's 19%, but that's it. You don't get anything else. Well, yeah, you have health insurance and all of that, right? Which, to be fair, Czech Republic, we have a free healthcare, but at the same time, they will deduct some amount of money from our paychecks, which we know about it, that we pay for it. And I respect that, because it's not like Canada where we pretend we have a free healthcare, but obviously it all goes from the taxes. But anyway, back to the point. So it wasn't like, it was kind of like bonus, right, for signing the new collective agreement. So I thought like, okay, maybe I'll pay just income tax or whatever. No, I had to pay over 30% in taxes. It was employee tax for like federal employee tax, and then income tax for the province where I live. And I was like, why the hell is it 2 of those? Like, what? What are we talking about? Because when I was looking at just income tax, I'm like, oh yeah, 10%, pretty good. And then I see on my pay stub that there's a federal income tax as well. In the end, it's like 31.5% together. And I'm like, well, it's ridiculous. And when did that happen? Well, during the Liberal era, right? But that's one thing I'm a little bit concerned as well, because Pierre Poilievre, obviously, he is promising to axe the tax, to lower the income tax by 15%. Let's do the simple math. It's not a 15% out of whatever 10%. Sorry. It's 15% out of those 10% that income tax is right now, or I don't know, maybe it's going to be the federal one, which I think it's 21.5%. But it's not like you take 21 minus 15. No, you take 15% out of that 21. So in the end, it's going to be like $100 a paycheck, maybe even less. So I really hope that they're going to look into it a little bit more and lower the taxes so we can feel the difference. Because if this is the only thing they're going to do, yeah, it's nice to have. I think they calculated it to like $500 a year extra. Obviously, not going to complain about extra money. But like, come on, you're taking 30% of the salary. And I know it's normal around the world, right? Some income tax, not in Texas, but like you're taking 30%, and then we have some taxes on the groceries, property taxes, like all of it. Literally, we calculated it. You pay somewhere around 50% of taxes, which is ridiculous. Like, why do I pay 30% out of my paycheck plus 20% on everything else? Like, something needs to change, and I hope the liberals will change it. Or maybe they will help with economy, the prices will go down, something like that. But like, yeah, sorry, did I say liberals? I meant conservatives. Like liberals, that's no. They had 10 years to do it. They're not gonna do it. Obviously, someone's making money, and it's not the normal Canadians, so you can't trust them. All of these promises right before election, and it's just ridiculous. They literally turned 180. Like this 10 years, they had some agenda, and now before election, they literally realize, oh, we were doing everything wrong. Let's do it completely opposite way. How can you trust that? Come on.
Arithmetic doesn't work. There aren't enough rich people in Canada to fund a big tax cut for the middle class. So it never happened. Indeed, under the Liberals, middle class income taxes have gone up about $6,000 a family. So really what Carney is doing, he's saying, well, we'll roll back some of those tax increases that we put on you over the last 10 years by a fraction or two, and maybe you'll feel better about things. That's why I say it's fine for the Liberals to be stealing policies from the Conservatives, but they don't really mean it, and no good is going to come of it if they get reelected. For Post Media, I'm Lauren Gunter.
No, I definitely agree. It was a great video. The gentleman had a good point, and yeah, like, and that's the thing, right? Liberals based their whole campaign on President Trump. And now look, the tariffs are, I don't want to say over, but kind of like not the main story right now. And somehow liberals are just stealing all of these ideas from conservatives. But it should not work. Like, people need to think logically. They had an opportunity to do this year, previous year, like 10 years straight. No, they decided to increase taxes, destroy the housing market, bring more immigrants that they could, because that's what affected the housing market, right? Like, you can't keep bringing people when you don't have housing for them, when you don't have jobs for them. And eventually, not only the immigrants will suffer, but the Canadians as well. Because, yeah, we see how it's here. And like, look at it in Ontario. Like, the prices over there, the townhouse, not even in Toronto, but let's say a GTA, so Greater Toronto area, and I'm not talking like Etobicoke, but let's say Mississauga, Milton, something like that. The towns or cities that are like an hour away from Toronto, the townhouse costs over $1 million. How ridiculous is that? Like $1 million for not even semi-detached. Like, and whose fault is that? Who let that happen? And now the liberals will tell us we're going to do everything differently. We're actually going to start caring about Canadians. Don't trust them. Come on. Like, yeah, you have Mark Carney, who used to be advisor to Justin Trudeau. Let's not forget that. But a lot of people won't care about that. They will see him as a new face. It might be new face, but it's still the same old Liberal Party. Again, the same way, like they're not gonna turn 180 out of nowhere. They're not gonna elect someone who's gonna go against all of their values and agendas and all of it. Like really, before you go voting, do your research. Realize one thing: liberals, you can judge them based on their actions.